Great Debaters Contest is powered by Blaze, by Safaricom, the Youth Network.
Coming to you from the Great Nakuru region, this is the Great Debaters Contest, and I am Austin Yambok.
And I am Mariam Bishar. Welcome to the show. We have newcomers today, Stafford High School go versus Uzalendo High School, on whether political instabilities in Africa are the greatest undoing to development. We'll have them take the stage now. Proposer number 1, you have 3 minutes.
In Africa, we are not as poor as the whole world portrays us. We only lack a good vision to see the continent through political turmoil that has always affected the growth in industries, housing, and infrastructure. Erica Yusa, Stafford Boys. It is high time that we get to terms with the term political instability. This simply refers to the propensity for regime or government change. And on the other hand, development refers to the making something more advanced. Now, let's start with neocolonialism. Now, this is the practice of using capitalism, globalization, and cultural imperialism to influence a developing country in the lieu of direct political control or indirect political control. Now, these leaders take advantage of political instability in Africa so that they can rob the citizens of their country's natural resources. Let's take a good example of Sudan, which is then now North Sudan and South Sudan. Now, these leaders, using the superiority, creating wrangles between the citizens so that they can acquire the main natural resource, which was in Sudan, but then which was oil. Now, this oil has created these wrangles between themselves. So now, we get to see now these leaders now benefit themselves and leaving the citizen dead. This leads to dictatorship. Now, dictatorship refers to where a ruler has total power in a country, and this leads the ruling to a country by force. Now, let's take a good example of a country like Liberia, which had a very known president who was known as Charles Taylor. In fact, he was the 22nd president of Liberia. Now, this leader ruled this country for 8 years, from 1997 to 2005. Now, this leader participated in the Sierra Leone civil war. By doing what? He even killed his own citizens so as to benefit himself. And now, due to this dictatorship leads to the mismanagement of public funds. Now, this mismanagement of the national cake, which basically refers to the public demand, now has resulted to the promotion of high economy towards the country. Now, all of us here have taken tea, and we have the taste of milk in that tea. But the one who buys that milk has the bitter taste. Now, honestly, how can I buy milk at 80 shillings in my own country? Really? This is a serious joke. But you're always comforted by the Wanjiku saying, navumilia kuwa Mkenya, which simply refers to, I preserve being a Kenyan. And this leads to high economy. And due to this high economy, it creates the result of poverty. Thank you.
Uzalendo High School will hear your opening statements. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Ruth Akumu from Uzalendo High School, and I would like to oppose the motion that says political instability in Africa are the greatest undoing to the development. First, I would like to start by the meaning of political instability. It is the quality of a situation in which a government is likely to change or fail suddenly and mainly characterized by power struggles among leaders. As the opposers, we want first to oppose this motion that it is not only these political instabilities that affect the undoing the development of Africa, but there are also other factors apart from this political instability. I'll start first by the high rate of poverty. In most African countries, there is free market policy, in which in the most African countries there is free market policy, but there is low purchasing power. This is due to the high poverty levels that is affecting the citizens of these countries. Now, and the rich people in these countries, instead of them buying the things from the locally available goods, they now prefer going to imported goods in order to buy, which has led to the undevelopment. Secondly, I would like to talk about natural calamities and diseases. Most African countries have been affected by epidemic catastrophes like AIDS. The government has then diverted its concentration to the sick instead of diverting it to the development in its countries, hence affecting the development of hence leading to undevelopment of Africa. Thirdly, I would like to speak about inappropriate spending of funds. This is a factor has affected the growth of development in African countries, in that most of them spend a lot of time and large amount of money on military hardware for defense and security. As a result, this has led to the undoing development of Africa. Instead of them diverting now this concentration mostly on this on the development, they are now diverting it to hardware, to the military hardware, like buying guns and whatsoever from other countries. That is why I strong to oppose the motion that is not only political instability that affects the development of Africa, but there are also other factors that have contributed. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll hear cross-examinations now. Beginning with Stafford High School, you have 3 minutes.
The first opposer was talking about there are other factors that has led to undevelopment in Africa, but we also need to understand that political instabilities in Africa are the greatest undoing to this development. Okay, first and foremost, I'm Isaac Boy from Stafford High School. I'm ready to propose this motion that say political instabilities in Africa are the greatest undoing to development. Okay, first and foremost, despite the fact that political instabilities scares away investors, it has also created a room for illegal businesses. Let's take, for instance, the international suppliers of guns and weapons in Africa. They will take this chance to supply guns and weapons to Africa. The Africans will kill each other, and these investors will still pray that this situation remain the same in Africa. They won't care as long as they do business. And this will lead to insecurity in Africa. Secondly, political instabilities in Africa has led to poor leadership, leading to formation of underground movements which threaten national peace or peace in the country. Allow me to turn back the clock. In Zambia, in 1965 in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Joseph Mobutu organized a coup and declared himself the president. There was high corruption, death rate, and poor healthcare, since his government was unable to provide adequate healthcare to the citizens of that nation. After his death, Laurent Kabila declared himself the president, and after some time, he was assassinated, and his son declared himself the president. And therefore, this led to appointment of corrupt leaders, and these government officials who were elected slowed down the economic growth of that country. We need to understand that political leaders who are elected not only focus or not only work in the interest of the nation, but of their own interest. Take, for instance, funds meant for national development going into other people's pockets. Will that really lead to development in Africa? When things happen, these things really normally happen, and we expect to do nothing because they happen in the center of power of the government, and no one dare to talk about it, because if you dare ask about it, you may end up in prison or even death. Okay, corruption in some countries forms part of what we call state secret. We all know that state secrets are sacred and can only be pointed out at the point of death. These are not good indicators of national development in Africa. It is crystal clear that political instability is the main reason why African countries are not developing. The government in African countries need to do a lot of things to encourage development. They need to build and maintain infrastructure, raise and spend finances on the right projects. And by doing so, we'll have a growing Africa. I mean a developed Africa and not a developing Africa. Thank you.
Uzalendo, you have 3 minutes for your cross-examination.
Hi. I'm Marybeth from Uzalendo High School. I stand before you to strongly oppose the motion that says political instability is the greatest undoing in the development of Africa. Firstly, I start by brain drain. Brain drain is when most skilled manpower are lured into overseas abroad. Like, let's take, for example, Ngugi wa Thiong'o. He went to abroad to other books. Now, as we have gone a loss because Ngugi wa Thiong'o was one of the skilled manpower. He went to other countries. Now, as it left a big gap of skilled manpower. Secondly is corruption. Most of the political leaders stash money into other countries. Leaders stash money into other countries and bank them. Hence leading to undevelopment in the development of Africa. This means that a lot of leaders struggle for the seat for their own benefit and that of their families. Thirdly, wrong policies and lack of skilled manpower. In most African countries, they lack skilled manpower due to poor education system. They rely on foreign expatriates. Like, take example for Kenya. They bring expatriates from Japanese or China to come and construct for us the roads. Imagine how much money we use to pay those expatriates and maintain them. That's why I strongly oppose the motion that states that political instability is the greatest undoing to the development of Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you very much, audience, for those wonderful questions. The proposers have been asked how the price of milk, for example, relates to political instability, and the opposition have been challenged to name the greatest undoing to development in Africa if it's not political instability. Proposal number 3, you have 3 minutes.
One of the greatest philosophers, Mark Twain, once said that politicians and diapers must be changed often and for the same reason. Ladies and gentlemen, the name is Peter Nganga, the school is Stafford Boys High School. Here to propose the motion that states political instabilities are the greatest undoing to national development. I will start by answering the question posed by my fellow colleague from the audience. She asked, how does political instability affect the prices of milk? You see, political instabilities actually affect the prices of milk because when we have political instabilities, definitely we'll have corruption. And what does corruption lead to? This corruption is what leads to mismanagement of funds. And what does this mismanagement of funds lead to? It leads to those high prices of milk and all those defaults to the economy. First and foremost, I'll take you back to the time in Somali, which was 2000. Back in 2000, the GDP, by GDP I mean the development project for Somalia was $278 per capita. But 15 years down the line, which is roughly 2015, the GDP per capita had gone down by $133, roughly having its new recordings at $145 per capita. Does this allude to anything, ladies and gentlemen? Food for thought. First and foremost, a research recently conducted by the CNN reports that political instabilities have led to erosion of democratic freedoms, increasing crackdowns on political position and the brutality of security forces towards protesters, compounded by rising food prices and worsening working conditions, which in turn, what do they lead to? Definitely, political instabilities. Okay, my fellow colleague, the second proposer, mentioned something about insecurity. Well, I know most of you are wondering, how does insecurity actually contribute to underdevelopment? You see, political instabilities lead to insecurity. Insecurities, in turn, lead to investors getting scared of investing in a particular country that is insecure and politically unstable. You see, let me ask you, ladies and gentlemen, my fellow proposers and the opposers, let me ask you, how many of you will feel comfortable living in a country that experiences gunshots after every 10 seconds, you see, bombings after every 10 days, acts of vandalism and terrorism after every 10 months or so? Is there anyone who will be comfortable living in an insecure country like that? Haha, definitely, I thought so. Okay, The same way we cannot live in an insecure country is the same way an investor cannot cannot invest his or her money in an insecure continent. You see, in an insecure country rather. You see, Africa is rich and unused. If we play our cards well, we'll be able to manage our polities and thus encouraging development. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us all bury the mentality that political instabilities are not the greatest undoing to development, because they are the greatest undoing to development. Thank you.
Opposition, you have 3 minutes to answer the audience's questions.
My adjudicators, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Gerard Faith from Uzalendo School, and I'm ready to oppose the motion that says political instability is the great undoing to the development of Africa. But first, I would like to answer the question of my sister there, who talked of brain drain. Okay, we said brain drain is the main, it is one of the factors that lead to the underdevelopment, because people of our country tend to leave the country and go to other countries to look for jobs. This makes specialized people like doctors, we have engineers, and all the important people who could have helped in the development go and assist other countries. 2, my other sister talked of political instability being the greatest. She asked which is the greatest undoing to the development of Africa. There are a lot of factors that lead to the underdevelopment of Africa. I didn't mean that my fellow colleagues didn't mean that it is political instability which is the only factor that leads to the underdevelopment. Yes, it is, but it is a factor, not the main factor. And to my first point, we have terrorism. What about terrorism? When these Al-Shabaabs come, they come and kill important people in our countries. They distract a lot of property that could have helped in the development of our country. Take, for instance, we have Somalia. Somalia is infested by terrorists, and you see what is happening to their development. Their development is deteriorating. 2, we have that statistic analysis states that most parts of the West African, Niger region, and the distinct nationalities that inhabit those countries are experienced by terrorism. And this terrorism mainly drags their development down. 2, we have lack of efficient education system. What do you think when we don't have learned people in the country? What will happen? What will happen if we don't have professionals in our country? The development will go down. We don't have the people to give us specific ideas on what and how the country will develop. Last but not least, we have the breach of contracts, where you find people of a certain country tend to think of breaking a rule because they want to make themselves rich and forget about the people, where you find the people of Matatu overloading their vehicles because they want money. And in the end result, in the end result, you find that they kill people in accidents and other unroadworthy. Thank you.
We'll hear closing submissions. Stafford, you have a minute.
So now, the second opposer said that, how has Ngugi wa Thiong'o affected the underdevelopment in Africa? So my question is, how has Ngugi wa Thiong'o affected? So now, anyway, Erica Yusa once again, to sum up this ugly, vicious cycle of political instability, our African leaders should put in mind that Abraham Lincoln was one of the greatest American presidents. And he said that character is like a tree and reputation is like a shadow. The shadow is what we think of it, and the tree is the real thing. Thank you.
Uzalendo, you have a minute as well.
Back again in the stage is Gerard Faith from Uzalendo School, and would like to correct my friend here. You said that how did Ngugi wa Thiong'o help in contribute in the underdevelopment? We were just giving an example of a skilled man who went abroad and started inventing himself in the country instead of helping our country. So I stand here and oppose the motion. Political instability is not the great undoing to the development of our country, of Africa. Take this challenge. This challenge is to both, not only the proposer side, but also to the audience and to my adjudicators. Political instability is not the great undoing to the development of Africa. We also have many other factors that has led to the underdevelopment. And I conclude by saying it is never over until the fat lady sings. Thank you.
Eric, we agree here as judges, we were lost at first when it came to debate. Why? Because we were trying to understand what you're talking about, because you gave far-fetched examples and did not address the motion at first, okay? But at least you picked up very well. But we must acknowledge that you have a great passion and style of presentation for a first speaker, which is good and commendable. Isaac, good examples, all right? You gave good examples. However, you were time bad. And the second thing is there's something we call monotony of delivery. You notice you lost the audience at some point because you started now speaking to yourself. You want to constantly increase the level of engagement by looking at your style of presentation. Peter, I had a lot to talk about you. The first thing is that you're very confident and a good speaker. And the audience as well applauded you much. However, you give one strong point about insecurity. But what you did is that you started deliberating it. When you told us about security and that investors will cow and not even invest in the country, that was enough. The point was home. But he started now asking the question, would you as well do this and that? No. We already got the point. You want to move on because you want to maximize on your time. But for the first time, I think that was commendable.
The proposers, you exhibited signs that you didn't fully understand the motion. The opposers, Uzalendo, you had a clear understanding of the motion. Your problem was conviction and language a bit. There were some glaring errors of grammar here and there. Peter, what's the meaning of GDP? You should have got that right. If you're going to use it here, get it right. Get it right. Be sure of the point that you want to use. Thank you.
Thank you very much to our lovely judging panel. Numbers now. Stafford Boys versus Uzalendo School. Audience, I always ask you, who do I begin with? Uzalendo. Okay, I heard Uzalendo the highest. Uzalendo School, you have 62%. Kindly give them a round of applause. Stafford Boys High School have 60%, making Uzalendo the winners of this debate.
Very well. Thank you very much. Thank you, the teams on stage. Thank you, the audience. Thank you, our viewers back at home, for watching. Keep it tuned. Stay engaged on social media at Great Debaters EA. I've been your host, Austin Nyombo.
And I am Mariam Bishar. Thank you for watching.
The Great Debaters Contest is powered by Blaze, by Safaricom, the Youth Network.